Hello everyone, welcome to Tech4Good Awards live, our third show this year for the 2020 awards. I'm Mark Walker from AbilityNet. I organise the Tech4Good Awards and I'm your host for today's show. We've got some guests lined up from the Tech4Good for Africa Award, Connected Society Award, Digital Health Award. We're going to find out more about past winners and finalists and what they did and how they won and their top tips for you if you're thinking of entering. We're going to find out more about sponsors input. We've got somebody from Comic Relief to talk to us about what they're interested in finding out through the Tech4Good Awards. And overall, I'm hoping that you're going to go away with a sense of how all these amazing stories that we share through Tech4Good really bring those to life for you and understand what we're trying to do with the awards overall. And also hopefully encourage you to think about entering this year. Nominations are open right now. They're open till the 30th of June. It's completely free to enter. You have to use the website to enter. You go in and you fill in a form, you choose which category you want to enter, you put your details in, asks you 5 or 6 questions about the work that you're doing and the impact that it's having. And then we then whittle that down to a short list, announce the finalists, and our judges choose a winner. So if you're interested in joining in, go and have a look now. It's at tech4goodawards.com/enter-now. That's where you can find all the details about this year's awards. What we're going to do now, though, is meet a couple of people to do with the Tech4Good for Africa Award, including last year's winner. So we've got Niels from Jangula, and we have Penny from Comic Relief. So hi, everyone. How you doing?
Well, thanks.
Very good, thank you.
So I'm going to start with you, Niels. Can you tell us a bit about what Jangula does and a little bit of reflection on where you were at this time last year and in the Tech4Good Awards?
Yeah, so Jangula is a small UK charity that makes connectivity solutions for vulnerable people. We started out in the Calais jungle back in 2015. We put the first Wi-Fi network into the Calais jungle, and from there we started rolling out the solutions that we're making all over the world, and eventually we started putting stuff into certain locations in Africa. In the last year, we've more than doubled our deployments from 16 to 40, including plenty more in Africa, but also some closer to home as well. And more recently, we've started looking at how we can help people in the UK, especially during the current COVID-19 crisis. So yeah, it's been a really exciting year for us so far, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit more.
Yeah, cool. So in particular around what you were doing in Africa, can you tell us a little bit more about the connectivity and the way that you're working on the ground in terms of who you're connecting to what and what sort of tech you're putting in the middle of that?
So we make hardware solutions that basically can take any form of backhaul and make that into really usable Wi-Fi for a large number of people. So you can imagine there's lots of use cases for that, but some of the ones that we found very exciting and that have needed our technology the most are educational-based solutions and health-based solutions, especially in Africa. We work in refugee camps and areas that may be, have more vulnerable people in than other areas, and provide solutions for people so they can access educational materials. And we work with a few healthcare situations where people can, access test results and things like that using the Wi-Fi connectivity that we put in place.
Cool. And I mean, you're talking about a space where there's not great connectivity, but people presumably have the technology in their hands to some extent, the smartphones and other things. So they're sitting there looking for connectivity, and that's the gap that you're filling.
Yeah, and we also partner with other organisations that do hand out devices in these situations as well. We've been very lucky to have a really exciting partnership with Lenovo, who provided devices in some of the locations we work in, particularly in educational settings. And we've been working with Lenovo and another charity called Amala, who provide educational solutions to refugees. So we've been focusing on Kenya with that solution, and we've provided lots of devices as well there with Lenovo's help, which has been really, really exciting.
Cool, that's great. And So what's the mix in Jangala's sort of history? Are you techies who knew this tech could do good, or are you the goodies who knew the tech must be out there somewhere, or a bit of both?
I'd say a bit of both, but leaning more to the goodies who knew the tech must be out there. So
Right.
I'm not a very technical person myself, and I started working in the Calais jungle 5 years ago. Just volunteering on a very basic level, giving people clothes and shoes and food and things like that. But very quickly I realised that there was other needs out there, and there's only so many times you can lend your phone out to people wanting to call Eritrea and Sudan before it gets very expensive. So that made me think, there must be a better way of doing this. But luckily, very soon after that, after kind of looking around for ways to solve this issue, I was introduced to the other co-founders of Jangala, particularly Rich and Samson. Now, Rich has lots of experience working in sub-Saharan Africa himself, mainly as an economist, but he's learned a lot about the technical solutions along the way, and yeah, he's got some great experience, and really all the ideas for building these solutions have come from his mind. So very grateful to have been introduced to him back in 2015, and yeah, between us, somehow we've managed to keep the ball rolling and grow the charity to where it is today.
Fantastic. And I'm looking ahead. I'm guessing that it might be subtle, but there's been a shift in people's understanding of how important internet is to our day-to-day life. That it's I know people think it's a sort of a basic right in some senses, but presumably the COVID emergency in the general public's mind has sort of really sharpened the idea of why we need to be online. Are you seeing that change in terms of those situations, like humanitarian situations you're talking about? Is there a little bit more impetus there to make sure this sort of infrastructure is in place?
Yeah, 100%, because it's making it so much more difficult now for people to access services that they could before access in person. Now a lot of these services are going online, and if people don't have that connectivity, it means they're missing out on those services. So it really has shown us that actually the need for this is greater than ever. And I know we're talking about Africa, but even in the UK, there's 17% of households within the UK that don't have access to home broadband. So there's a massive need out there worldwide, and yeah, it's something that we're finding out more and more and more how big this need is. So we're hoping to scale up as quickly as we can to provide as many solutions as possible and help as many people as possible.
Cool. So I guess final question then, with global domination in mind, what's the next step for you, and what sort of help do you need? Because I mean, I'm very conscious with Tech4Good, we try and provide support. Are there things out there that you need help with, that you're looking for partnerships or?
Yeah, so we're always looking for new partnerships and more funding. I guess it's probably similar for most charities out there. There are two things that are very helpful to us. Obviously, the more funding that we get, the more systems we can get out in the field, and the more work we can do on improving our tech. And the more partnerships we get, the more systems we can get out in the field. So at the moment, we've just been designing a new solution, which is smaller than our initial solution. Our initial solution is called Big Box. It's not so big anymore. It started out quite big. It's actually shrunk quite a lot. But the new solution is a lot smaller. Big Box is more of a solution for larger numbers of people. But we found in the current crisis, it's a lot harder to use because it works best when people are gathered in one area. So we've developed a much smaller kind of household solution that can be sent out and used for smaller numbers of people, and we can get out at a much lower cost. So trials of that are starting shortly, and we'll be announcing that product properly in the next week or so. And yeah, we're looking for new partners to trial that with, and to get as many people connected to this new product as possible, so we can do as much testing as possible. And make sure it works as it should, yeah, we can start getting as many out there as we can.
Great, thank you. And anybody interested, there's more information on the Tech4Good.com website, and Jangala is Jangala. So Penny, hi, thanks for joining us from Comic Relief. You've been sponsors of Tech4Good for Africa Award for several years now. The stuff that Nils is talking about there is about reaching into particular settings within the African context. But equally, you're interested in looking at what's being homegrown in Africa, aren't you? I think it's sort of always looking at where we can learn from what's happening there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the key reasons why we're really glad to be supporting the awards over a number of years. I think that's a principle that applies internationally and in the UK around kind of developing really effective technological solutions. So we're really interested in where work is kind of user-led, ideally being led by beneficiaries. And ultimately, I think that leads to kind of more effective solutions, really. Because we know that work that is developed in that way, that is homegrown, is more likely to be kind of really responding to people's needs rather than what we think their needs might be or what we think they might use in terms of a shiny tech solution. So, yeah, it's amazing to be supporting the awards again and learning from some of the great work that's happening throughout Africa. So.
Fantastic. And Comic Relief obviously is well known. It's a household name in the UK, but it's possible that two things, maybe people don't understand quite how you work in partnership and the development, what you do in Africa. And then the role of tech is a key part of what you do and the way you invest in supporting projects. Can you tell us a bit about that, or both parts of that, really?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the social tech side of things is really a growing line of work for us, which is brilliant. We do a lot of work supporting organisations in the UK that are working within the UK, and that's quite a structured funding program that we deliver there. And internationally, it's kind of an emerging area of work. So we don't actually have any explicit kind of social tech funding programs in Africa, but the work that we do support there kind of comes through our other funding streams. And one of my jobs is really kind of starting to learn from that as well and linking up all the parts within our strategy to make sure we're kind of coherent across that. And hopefully we can be supporting even more work kind of internationally around social tech in the future as well. So, yeah, it's definitely an area of real commitment and a really exciting kind of emerging area for us as well. I think, generally we've been focused on both supporting kind of innovative products that meet a social need, hopefully facilitating kind of organisational learning and digital transformation within different sectors as well. And as part of that, we're really committed to the wider ecosystem that sits around this. And again, that's one of the reasons we're really glad to be supporting the awards as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's worth emphasising from our perspective, you do have, you're known for that holistic approach, like you said, if we just started with the tech, very often that's the wrong end of the problem. If you don't look at the partnerships and the development space and community-led responses, it's quite clear that that's your approach. And certainly that's what's been successful the last few years, and seeing the entries that come in. And I'm hoping again that we're going to be seeing another amazing crop and making it just as difficult for our judges this year to pick a winner. So thank you very much for supporting it. And I mean, certainly anybody listening who's interested, you must be developing a product or service or solution that's in sub-Saharan Africa. You could be based anywhere in the world and be doing that work, but we're looking for the impact to be on communities in sub-Saharan Africa. As we've described, the technology is not the main thing we're looking at. It's the impact on people's lives. Clearly, the sort of innovative use of technologies is a key part of what we're doing. So if that sounds like you, please get your entry in at tech4goodawards.com/enter-now. You have until the 30th of June. And then Penny and others will be poring over all of those entries and helping to pick this year's winner. So thank you both for joining us. It's very interesting to hear about. So then we've got another sort of change of direction a little bit here now. 3 more guests from last year, involved in last year's awards. And we've got somebody who was involved in Connected Society Award, Digital Health, and there's some interesting connections around mental health as well. So I'd like to say hello to Yvonne and Shushtin and Becca. Hiya.
Hi.
How you doing?
Hello. Hi.
So let me go first to you, Yvonne. You're in the top right-hand corner of the images, so I'm going to go around the top right. Can you tell me a bit about Mind of My Own and a little bit about why you think you won last year, what it was that you got involved in?
Yes, sure. So Mind of My Own is 2 apps for children and young people that gives them a voice in the decisions made about their lives. So it's all around participation, helping keep children safe, but helping keep children and young people at the centre of their own risk awareness and their own safety. So very much about children having agency. It's fully supports Article 12 of UNCRC, and that's our passion really. It's to have children involved and having their voices heard. I think we won because of the impact we'd had on that community. So we've heard about 34,000 children's voices over the time we've been running. It's led to changes in practice in social work, and now we're moving into schools, so it will happen in teaching. And it's putting children right at the centre of the services they use. So I would summarise it in that way.
Yeah, and can you remind us which category you won, which award you've got?
I think it was community impact.
Yeah.
Is that still a category?
I think that is. So yes,
yeah.
And I mean, I think it shows the variety of what we're doing as well. But the working with the young people, that's in a number of different settings, isn't it? It's not so you work across organisations in different communities.
We do, and we
about how people would access it.
Yeah, so the apps are free. There's a web browser app, or it's on the App Store and on Google Play. But the best way for a young person to use it is if their organisation signs up for a licence, because then it's contained within that system and it's all geared up through our implementation process for workers to respond in a very timely manner and for things to change in that young person's life. And the settings can be social care, could be schools, youth justice, and increasingly we're working with a lot of local authority, voluntary sector providers, especially the larger ones across the country. So the settings are varied. It's wherever a child or young person is using a service, that's the key. Because in a way, automatically that can have the potential to take some power away from the young person, and we're trying to give the power back.
Yeah. And I'm guessing, we'll come to this with everybody, but I think the current COVID situation is bound to be having an impact on mental health of young people.
Absolutely.
How is that manifested in your work?
Well, child protection referrals are down by over 50%, which is really worrying, because obviously it doesn't mean those concerns have gone away. It means that people aren't seeing young people and being able to report them. So at least if young people can use our apps to say what's concerning them and report to a person they trust, of course that's dependent on them having access to digital platforms and so on, which in their own homes they may not have. That is a real worry. I think when they go back to schools, it will be more reassuring, because at least they have access to school computers.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, a lot of organisations have come to us and said that our apps have become a lifeline. So from being, in some ways, for some people, they saw it as a nice to have or an extra, they're now seeing it as an essential part of their toolkit for working with young people. So yeah,
I think that's something which I mean, we in AbilityNet we've noticed that with the work we do with older people and disabled people, that there now is a better understanding of that gap and the need to fill it. In terms of having access to digital devices. So Shushtin, I'm going to come to you next about MeTwo, because you're working in a sense working with a similar client group, but in a different way. Can you tell us a bit about what MeTwo does, and winner of last year's Connected Society Award?
So very close in a way to the same group of people that Mind of My Own is working with. So MeToo supports anxious young people to be able to talk about what's going on in their lives and share problems with each other, and to help themselves through difficult times. And we get young people coming onto the app who want to talk about things like they're going to have braces fitted and they're worried what that looks like, right through to the other end of the spectrum where young people are struggling with self-harm or severe depression. So it's it's life, really. It's coming and sharing the problems that life throws at you. And yeah, just as Yvonne is saying, we've seen a real uptake since lockdown, increased usage on the app, a higher severity of posting as well. So we do feel that we've really become a lifeline to some of these young people who are trapped in very difficult circumstances at the moment.
And in terms of the involvement in the awards, can you tell us a bit about how that happened and your sort of involvement and recollection of last summer and the process?
Yeah, we loved it. It's one of our favourite awards, I'm going to be honest with you. So we won 2 awards. We won the Connected Society Award, and we also won the People's Choice. The People's Choice was a lot of fun for us to do. It fitted in really well with who we are, because we're building a community of young people, and so the People's Choice gave us the impetus to go out to that community and get their buy-in and support for what we were doing, and obviously expand the message even further. So it that was really useful. We find that generally entering awards like this is really useful because it helps clarify our thinking. It's almost like you have to write a little business plan each time in a way, and so to enter all the different questions, and that's really useful actually. We even even the awards that we may not have been so successful with, we always get something out of them by entering them. And then having won the awards, obviously the kudos is absolutely fantastic. It's a really well-known award nationally. If we say to people we've won a Tech4Good awards, you get that little of recognition, which is always very pleasing. And it's been great as well, to connect with the sponsor of the Connected Society Award, Samsung. We've had some really good dialogue and discussions with them. So I'd encourage everybody to go for it and apply, because I think whether it's just the process of entering that helps you, or obviously the winning and getting the recognition. The event itself, the finals were also fantastic. I know it's going to be quite a bit different this year, sadly, but it was a really great networking opportunity with people who are really cared about the all the organizations that were there, like-minded people, and we've made a number of connections, mentors, sales connections, a variety of things that have continued right up to now. So yes, get on and apply would be my message to everyone.
Great, thank you. Becca, I'm come to it in a second, but generally, but I think actually you've reminded me in those conversations, you were very startup, weren't you, when you put your name in the hat? So can you tell us about TapSOS and where you are, or where you were a year ago, perhaps, just in terms of entering? Because I think people might not realise that you were a very, very early stage and became a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. So TapSOS at the time that we entered was a bit of a working prototype. So we had an MVP, a demo version that we'd been working on for a while. We were demoing with user groups and getting feedback. But when you're at that stage, you don't often think that you could apply for an award or even be considered. So I think people can be reserved. So I'd encourage anyone who's at that point just to take a look. And when you're writing your application, put down everything that you've achieved so far. And I think if passion comes through and the impact that this can make, I think you're a worthy winner there. So for us, we were early stage, and now a while on, we've reached many milestones, and we launched the product in March last year, and at the minute we're working on a new release. So it's been busy, but a very fun journey since.
And can you tell us a bit about the impact, that you, I mean, I have to say from the judge's point of view, it is all about the potential and the impact that we think that we thought we could see that you could achieve. Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about the impact you're trying to have and the people that may be the users of your app?
Yeah, so TapSOS is for people to contact emergency services 999 in the UK, and that covers police, ambulance, fire and Coast Guard. So it's really a non-verbal method. So people can telephone for whatever reason. It could be physical, medical or situational barrier for picking up that telephone. Our app steps in and a user can request help and explain through the app, through icons, what the situation is and what help is required. So I think we're a new product to the market. So I think for us, the impact was, goodness, this is new. Nobody's thought about this before, what's currently out there. And I think that's kind of the biggest impact. We're creating a new service and a new technology that's never been done before, and really trying to revolutionize a service that is currently available, but at the moment leaving people at a side and not really inclusive or accessible for everybody. So we really want to change that and make things easier for people to use.
And did you have a particular group of users in mind when you started that journey? Did it emerge from a particular sort of need that you could see?
Yeah, so here in Northern Ireland, I would be very close to the deaf community and have a lot of friends who I was just getting to know, really one-to-one stories of what was happening and maybe barriers or communication difficulties with certain services. And that's whenever it kind of highlighted to me that how do people who can't telephone reach out for help? So initially it was just my idea for, I would like to assist and help the deaf community get 999 response, But very quickly, whenever we tested the product, and that was whenever we were starting to build kind of momentum, I realized that Top SOS can be for anyone. You never know when you find yourself in a difficult situation. So very quickly, it just really expanded to say, if you can't telephone, here's the option, Top SOS.
Cool. And what's next in terms of where you are now? What's the big sort of goal for 2020 and beyond? Obviously, all our plans are up in the air slightly, but
oh yeah. Well, although we went live on the app stores last March, we haven't really promoted it. We've stayed quite quiet as we just develop new features and make the product even better. So we've stayed low key. And this year we just plan to then really launch that and market the product. So that's a very exciting time, because I felt like I've been sitting on a really exciting product and not really telling anyone. So for us this year, it'll be very exciting.
Great. And just in terms of the connections you've made in Tech4Good, and obviously our hope is that we've helped you grow and develop, not least through the recognition that we've provided, but equally the connections. Tristan mentioned some of the people she's met. Is there anybody particularly jumps out at you that you think, oh yeah, that's the Tech4Good connection that we made?
Yeah, for us, we were already linked in with BT, as BT are the 999 call handlers across the UK. So we had a good relationship with them, but being part of the awards really expanded our network. Getting to know other partners and sponsors was brilliant for us. Lloyds Bank in particular have stayed close to us, and the lady who was involved in representing Lloyds is so friendly and so wonderful. I think if you're part of the awards, you will get swept up and just really supported and mentored through different situations. So for us, there were a few, but Lloyds Bank was one for us, a very special one.
Cool. And I just go around each of you. Yvonne, Becca mentioned passion and so on coming through in your entry. Is there something in particular that you would be your top tip for somebody sharpening their pencil and about to put their name in the hat? What is it that makes a good entry, do you think, that you look back on that you think, no, we did that well?
Well, I think, a lot of us are quite practiced at writing bids for awards and various other things, and the right things to say and the boxes to tick. But really, for an award like this, particularly this one, I would say be authentic, right? We were all driven into these things by a genuine passion that we have to make something better for a group of people. And if you stick to that, it will shine through and people will see it.
Yes, no, that's a great one. I think the impact, to add into the impact comment, we're always looking for measurable impact. It's not about the scale of it. In all of your cases, the numbers are very different, and even where you are now to where you were, it doesn't mean that it has to be huge. It just has to be clear. The authentic thing is very helpful for us, that you haven't dressed it up. And equally the potential, if we get this right and we give a bit of, get some support in the right place, then we're going to be able to do this. That's also what we're looking for. So, and Tristan, in terms of the relationships you've developed, what do you think you're going to be able to do next? Where are you headed in terms of your development next year or so?
Yeah, so again, big exciting time for us. We're just doing our first seed round now. So having come through from being a small, co-founded, two of us co-founding it, we're suddenly talking about big money and things like that. So, and obviously that, the need for that is to be able to expand the work we're doing. Initially in the UK, but we're already starting to talk about what we could do at an international level. And it just always comes back to the fact that we're trying to help the lives of young people, and so every decision we make is based on that. But yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting over the next few years once we raise this money and we move to the next stage of a company's development. That's exciting and a little bit scary.
Yeah. Well, of course, I mean, it's worth me mentioning at that point that this is the 10th year of the awards. So, amongst your sort of entries, there's a typical sort of mix of a little bit of startup, a little bit of scale up. We've got people who we were working with 10 years ago who've been through that journey and are moving on to another stage. We've seen people. I remember somebody, what 3 words, I think, when they entered the awards, actually filled their entry in. Between that and being announced as our winner, they got a huge grant from Google. So it is all part of that exciting change and development, isn't it? And And I think we're always keen to be as supportive as that as possible. And I think that's a message that we want to get out to people who are thinking about entering, is that we don't see our role as simply shining a light, although we want to do that. We want to big you up and show people how great your work is. We actually want to help you grow and continue to do more good. So if you are out there listening to this and you think you've got an idea that's worthy of an entry, think about what the impact is that you're making, think about the potential that you have, but please get your entry in there so that we can help grow those great ideas. And here's 3 great ideas which you can learn from. And there's plenty more on the website. Have a look now at tech4goodawards.com/enter-now. That's where you can enter. That's open until the 30th of June. Take you into the process of filling in the forms, deciding which category you want to enter and so on. And look forward to getting your entries in. So thanks, guys. That was just brilliant. I mean, as ever, all those great stories about your passion and energy and the amount of hard work you're putting in to help others. I think it's been a great hearing about it. The crossover around the mental health and the times that we're in. I'm sure we'll see more of that this year. Clearly that's going to be an impact of what's going on around us. And also, the idea of working with particular groups. That I think, Becca, your story is also about the idea that, well, we had one group in mind, and then we realised that this would work for a whole load of other people as well. And all of that is part of the ethos of Tech for Good, that we want to hear your stories and find out more about the ways that tech can make the world a better place. So thanks for joining us, and thank you to our guests. And we're back next week with another show. So see you then.
Okay. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.